Season 5, Episode 51 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Steelers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Litskin. Jonathan, M-I-Z.
Z-O-U, Sam. Z-O-U. What a win.
I have a new second favorite road win of the Dennis Gates era, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, you do. I mean, I know the 2023 team had a bunch of, voodoo, and they got some pretty big wins as well, but this team analytically is far better than Dennis's first team.
Going on the road as 13-point Ken Palm underdogs to a top 5 team in Florida. And that's not just a top 5 ranked team. This is a legit top 5, if not 6 or 7 team in the country right now. And I believe that they will be a 1, a 2, at very worst, a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. And Mizzou goes into their house, takes a double-digit lead into halftime, plays better for 28, 30 minutes, and holds on at the end.
Yeah, at halftime, was obviously a bunch of people were texting me, a bunch of friends were texting about what was going on. Mizzou shot the lights out in the first half. Sometimes teams just don't miss, and that's a pretty good recipe to win on the road. I've said at halftime that Florida would get back in this game, and whether Mizzou, we'll really find out how good Mizzou is in the final 4 minutes, and if they're able to close it out. And that's exactly what they did. They did it despite not shooting well at the line in the second half either. I thought there were a couple possessions at the end when they played some really excellent defense. I thought, they got a couple breaks, obviously, with the timeout. Florida, Walter Clayton gets fouled on 3 with under 3 minutes to go and misses 2 out of 3 at the line. I think Florida had their chances, but ultimately Mizzou doing enough to go into top 5 Florida and win. That's a kind of win that moves you up like 2 seed lines. It's not just.
I think it's time to bring back a classic. He had a game. Caleb Grill had a game. 22 points to lead Mizzou. He hit 6 threes, hit some free throws at the end. Caleb Grill, he didn't win this game for Mizzou because a lot of people won this game for Mizzou. Mizzou won this game as a team. But Caleb Grill played his best game in the Tigers uniform today. And it was the biggest win since Caleb Grill joined the Missouri Tigers program.
Yeah, and I think what's even more important is, you have guys that down the stretch, you're not typically relying on T.O. Barrett to be your point guard to close out games. You're not typically relying on Trent Pierce to be a guy in the second half that gets you over the line to the win. But they got good performances from unsung heroes besides Caleb Grill tonight. And Jacob is ready to go. But yeah, it was a really balanced effort. Obviously, the 6 threes from Krill helped, but I don't think that playing 11 guys in conference games is sustainable long term. But right now, what they're doing is working, and so I'm not gonna sit here and say all these changes need to be made after a win on the road at a top 5 team.
All right, time to bring on Jacob Polachek and his dog.
Hey, it's my dog Atticus. Yeah, he didn't like that I left him for a while today because I had to go cover a basketball game.
The CEO and president of what?
Oh, I just wanted to put something cool. I wanted to have a cool. I wanted to have a cool title.
All right, so Kentucky at home against Texas A&M. No Wade Taylor. Jackson Robinson revenge game. He goes for 22. Kentucky wins 81-69. The Wildcats are now 14-3, 3-1 in the SEC, the number 2 offense in the country. What has made this Kentucky team so dynamic from someone that watches them a lot closer than we do?
So the easy answer is Mark Pope and this offense. But but you've probably heard enough about that. We've heard a lot about Mark Pope's offense. I think what really makes this team go is just the depth. Like, you can have games where, like, Otego Away barely scored 10 points tonight. He didn't really have his best game, but you can have a night like you did from Jackson Robinson. Amari Williams has been great these last few games. Even Travis Perry's knocking down threes. So they just have a ton of depth. And when they get Kirk Risa back, that'll just add to their already impressive depth. But yeah, it was all Jackson Robinson tonight. Tonight was the last two games for Jackson have just been unreal.
Jonathan, I mean, Kentucky over Texas A&M tonight. Texas A&M, they got that gritty win against Oklahoma without Wade Taylor. Then they lose to Alabama. They lose to Kentucky. Wade Taylor's kind of on the LJ Cryer timeline right now. It's undisclosed. We don't know what's up there. What needs to change for them to kind of get back to where they can be even without Wade Taylor on the floor?
I think A&M is more or less not changing what they're doing without Wade Taylor. It's still one or two high volume guys that are going to be really high usage, and the style of play in terms of drawing fouls and rebounding stays the same. I just don't know if the offense is going to have enough juice. Offense has never been a Buzz. Shot making and offense has never been a Buzz Williams specialty at Texas A&M. And Phelps went nuclear last week in that Oklahoma game and single-handedly won them that game. But when you have to play teams like Alabama and teams like Kentucky, you need more than one guy. And Phelps, I didn't think he was terrible tonight. He didn't shoot it the best. He never really shoots it the best, but he gets up his. Finishes with 21. He goes 8 of 19 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3. That's pretty much what you can expect on a night-to-night basis from him. They need Wade Taylor. He gets to the line. He's a catalyst in, I don't even want to call it really like offense, but in how they score points.
Jacob, Texas A&M only had 4 assists today. I know they were without their point guard. I know they're not a team that has a ton of assists on a typical night, but it's exceedingly low number. What did Kentucky do defensively to restrict the ball movement from and the player movement from the Aggies?
Well, first off, I have to say, the score, Kentucky won by 12 points. Kentucky really could have won this game by a lot more had they not played pretty terribly in that first half. If they played the way they did in the first half against a team like Georgia, a team like Florida, a team like Alabama, who they've got coming up this weekend, they're down 15, 20 points easily. But Texas A&M could not really do anything on offense either. That's partly a testament to Kentucky's defense. Lamont Butler continues to be one of the best defenders in the country, even on a night where he had what felt like practically every injury he could possibly have in that game, a shoulder, hitting the eye. He was getting beat up out there, but he just is so impactful on defense. And then Amari Williams is just an excellent defender. He got in a little bit of foul trouble tonight, but he still hasn't fouled out this season, and he's got some unreal streak about not fouling out. So he's been just an excellent defender. He's someone that has surprised me, is just getting better as the season goes on, which you don't usually see from a guy with that much experience.
Yeah, I can't remember him fouling out at Drexel last year either. And I mean, he was out there a lot for Drexel, not a ton, but he was out there more than he was for Kentucky, and he was doing more offensively and doing a ridiculous amount defensively. Now that role offensively has kind of shrunk. It's still a lot of complex decision making at the high post and at the top of the key, because he's capable of doing that but the usage is down, the shot rate is down, and he's just been super effective on the defensive side of the ball. Coming up, obviously, Kentucky does have Alabama, but Kentucky, they've won 3 out of 4 SEC games. They've played a bunch of really high quality opponents in the SEC. They've played a really difficult SEC schedule. Obviously, the SEC is full of elite teams, but that SEC schedule, it's probably going to be a little lighter than this at times throughout the rest of the year. Yes, you do have Vanderbilt coming up. Vanderbilt and Arkansas, two of the bottom 5-ish teams in the SEC, coming up within the next 4 games. Obviously, the other two are Alabama and Tennessee, who might be the top 2 teams if Auburn is without Broome for a significant period of time. I know they just won by a lot tonight without Broome anyway. What does this Kentucky team still need to do to convince you that they're at that next level?
First off, getting Kirk Risa back would be very helpful because obviously Lamont has been great this season, but Travis Perry probably isn't ready to step into that true backup point guard role. Kirk Risa would add a whole new dimension to this team and just come in with spurts. That's just number one thing. Number two, just kind of Amari Williams has been great. I want to see some more consistency from Brandon Garrison. I was talking to one of my coworkers today, and it really feels like for every one good play he has 2 plays that make you scratch your head a little bit. Like, what is he doing? I think a lot of that is just going to come with experience and getting used to the college game. I know he's only a sophomore. That's one thing I want to see. Just overall physicality was something that I talked about a ton with this team a few weeks ago, and it seems like they're moving in the right direction from a physicality standpoint. So I want to see them continue to trend in the right direction there. And then just one other thing I'll add is free throws. That's been an issue throughout the season. Tonight they were, I think, pretty good from the line. Let's see, they were 24 for 31. So you want to get that up a little bit, but it was more of an issue earlier in the season. Tonight, I think they started off really great from the free throw line. And yeah, those are probably the biggest areas I want to see them improve.
Yeah, and you mentioned the physicality. I did think earlier in the year that there were moments where Kentucky was a little soft. And this was not a roster that was designed to be the most physically imposing roster in the country, the most physically imposing roster in the SEC. Obviously, Auburn was designed to be extremely physically imposing. Mississippi, Georgia, those are physically imposing teams that were designed to be physically imposing. A&M as well, even though they don't have like 7-footers, they have great size and physicality out of their backcourt and their front court. Kentucky was more designed on guys that have unique skill sets, that can pass the ball from different spots, that can make decisions, dribble, pass, shoot. And if you get physicality with that, you get physicality with that. And the fact of the matter is that I've seen Kentucky kind of man up over the last few weeks. I thought they needed it at times in the Florida game. They needed it at times in the Mississippi State game. And they needed it at times today, and they came through.
Yeah, I think that what physicality does is obviously Kentucky's known for being a really good shooting team, but when they have off nights, what do? If they're not hitting those threes, you got to score somehow. And a lot of that has to come in the post. And so you want to see guys like Amari Williams and especially a guy like Andrew Carr be more aggressive at getting their looks, getting to their spots. Carr was someone that kind of drove me crazy earlier in the season. He would get an open look and just completely pass it up, either driving or passing it when he really should be shooting from 3. So he's gotten better at that. And this team just seems a little more comfortable with each other and getting the looks that they want.
All right, Jacob, Jonathan, anything to add with Jacob before we switch over?
Yeah, no, I kind of hitting on a little of what Jacob said, I think the continuity for this team only gets better throughout the year. And I think that is especially true on the defensive end of the floor. This team is already a great offensive team because of the guys they brought in with the system that they run. And I think it's weird to say that like such an old team will continue to improve, but I honestly believe that with this Kentucky team, they play so well together. And I think by the end of the season, we could be talking about this team as possibly the second best team in the SEC, right next to Auburn.
All right, Jonathan. Jacob, before we let you go, our next guest we're bringing on covers Kentucky's next opponent. So we're bringing on Jack Knowlton from Tide Illustrated. Jack, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Quickly, Jacob, is there anything you would like to say to Jack before this game on what you're thinking, and if you want to hear his thoughts on the other side as well, before we get into Alabama's loss to Mississippi?
I don't really know much about this Alabama team. I'm going to start doing my research tomorrow, but I'm excited for this game.
You start to do your research in 2 seconds when we start talking about Alabama on the podcast.
Well, 2 seconds. It is already tomorrow now. It is 12:03. So I guess that research starts today. I'll be watching, and I'm excited for this game. I think it'll be packed at Rupp.
All right. Let's talk Alabama. Thank you, Jacob, for joining us. So Mississippi goes to Coleman Coliseum, stuns Alabama. What was the vibe like in that building tonight, Jack?
I think the vibe was similar to what Nate Oates felt it was, which was shocked. Coleman did its best. I will give the fans a lot of credit. Alabama was still in this game with a minute left. They, were only down 10. The crowd kind of tried to rally them, but in a kind of ironic twist, they were doing blue collar night. They had like a hard hat as the logo. They had these shirts they were giving away, and Alabama on that night got out hustled in their own blue collar points that they keep track of by an Ole Miss team that did shock them, and it was pretty clear that they didn't come ready to play. So it ended up being very disappointing, but the fans tried their best. I can't say the same for the team on the court though.
When you say they got out hustled, what does that mean for you when you're watching the game?
Yeah, this team has kind of all year had little sort of fits and spurts where they seem to switch off. They kind of coast on the pretty incredible talent that they have, and in other instances they don't come really ready to play, and they get out scrapped by a team that knows how good they are and wants to beat them. And that's exactly what happened. They had 7 turnovers on their first 10 possessions. The starters, they had the same starting group start the second half. They started the second half with 2 turnovers. The bench very nearly outscored the starters. They did not set any sort of a tone, and Mississippi totally took advantage of it. They're a good team. I was really impressed by Ole Miss. That was kind of my first chance to really, really watch them. And I like what they bring, but Alabama lost this game, I think, for themselves. They just got outworked. They didn't perform well on the offensive glass, which has been an area that Nate Oates said after the game has kind of saved their offense for all the shooting struggles that we've seen them have, for all this just general scoring stuff that kind of goes away for them. They've rebounded really, really well this year. They had 4 offensive rebounds in this game, and they average, I think it's close to 17 a game. So that area was really disappointing as well. Kind of a reflection of just didn't have any hustle, didn't come ready to play.
The thing that I look at for Alabama, it's that combination of only 23 point attempts. They average what? 32? Probably something like
roughly
that. 4 offensive rebounds. You said they average 17.
Yep.
And 21 turnovers. They probably average what? Like 12, 13?
That's been high for most of the year, but 21 tonight was their season high. So it was
so maybe 14 or 15, but 21 is way too high. Versus Ole Miss, Mississippi, they don't want to attempt as many threes as Alabama, but if Mississippi is taking more threes than Alabama, that's probably a sign, especially considering Mississippi attempted 22 more shots inside the arc.
Yep.
Mississippi only turned it over 7 times. They got 9 offensive rebounds, and they took 23 more field goals. How many games are you going to win when you get outshot by 23?
Yeah, I mean, not many. And that goes into the O boards thing too. I mean, they just played Texas A&M on the road, the best offensive rebounding team in the country. And, the kind of best sequence of the game was Mark Sears had 3 3-point attempts on one possession because they kept grabbing the offensive rebound and giving him another shot at it. He's not going to miss 3 threes in a row. So, that goes into what Oates said. They have been kind of struggling shooting, but they've been able to make up for it by getting these extra possessions for themselves. And when that goes away, I mean, they really struggled. And until they kind of lift the lid off the rim, they're going to have to keep relying on offensive rebounding. And, when that goes by the wayside because they're not hustling, this is what happens. And a team's able to outshoot you in your own gym and force 21 turnovers in your own gym, which is, it was a pretty rough performance. Oates was very embarrassed by it, I think, and is planning. I know he said as much. He said, I'm going to look in the mirror. I'm going to have a long talking to with, this is a team with 5 fifth-year seniors. So to him, it's kind of inexcusable that they weren't ready to play tonight.
Jonathan, your guy, Missouri Valley legend Malik Dia, best game of his season for
He's great. He was so much fun to watch.
23, 19, and 2 blocks. Classic 0 assist stat line for him as well.
Yeah.
Jonathan Malik Dia, back in the SEC now, and he has had a couple of terrific games in a row. He's got the wild turkey of Ken Pom MVPs, 3 in a row, Jonathan.
Yeah, it baffles me to this day why Vanderbilt didn't play him / didn't do what they needed to keep him around.
Which would have been play him, by the way.
Yeah, he goes and dominated Belmont last year. Was an All-Valley guy. Comes to Ole Miss.
Grant, you missed it.
Yeah, granted. Grant, you're a little late, pal. Go back and watch the beginning.
I've got a comp for you, Jonathan, that can reconnect it, but I'll let you say your piece.
Okay, so yeah, I think Malik Dia fits really well on this Ole Miss team. It's a team that's based around athleticism with a true point guard in Sean Padula, and I think just on the Alabama side of things, I think in Alabama losses, you have to go look at who covered. Did Alabama cover their checklist in terms of shot diet? How many possessions did they play? Did they force did they get enough rebounds? Did they force enough turnovers? That kind of thing. Credit it was a 72 possession game tonight. Alabama wants that to be higher, and credit to Ole Miss and Sean Padula for being able to get that down because you're never going to play a 68 possession game against Alabama, but getting it down to 72 gives you a chance. And I think. I don't think Ole Miss laid out the blueprint because I don't think there is an exact blueprint to beat a team as talented as Alabama. But it was surprising to me how Ole Miss, a team that isn't really known for being able to run teams off the line, was able to hold Alabama to just 23 3-point attempts tonight. I want to tip my cap to Ole Miss for getting the road win because no road win in the SEC especially is easy. But I think there was a huge part of this of Alabama just shooting themselves in the foot.
I mean, yeah, Ole Miss definitely deserves a lot of credit. I think they're a good defensive team. I think a lot of it was Alabama too, just kind of getting in its own way. Like you said, there was a lot of unforced turnovers, some really bad passes, but that was partially forced. I mean, Nate Oates kind of talked about it. Ole Miss switches on everything, on ball and off ball. Alabama hadn't really seen that yet this year, and that clearly frazzled them. And so that kind of defensive style, I think they deserve a lot of credit for where their defenses come, especially with how small they are. I mean, you mentioned Malik Dia. I think he's their biggest guy that gets any significant minutes. And Jonathan, who was reminding me of as he kind of nimbled his way around the post and around Alabama's couple 6'11", 7-footer guys. He's giving me a little bit of Kobe Brown vibes to give a little Missouri comp there. He's playing bigger than he was. He's kind of this he looks like a bulkier kind of 6'8", 6'9" guy, but he's incredibly fluid. He scores really easily, hounds the glass, played good defense. He didn't hit the threes that Kobe was hitting in his last year with the Tigers. Yeah. But I saw a little Kobe Brown in him tonight. That's
body types are very similar.
Yeah. That's not a bad comp at all. Yeah, Mississippi 4-0 in the SEC. It has not been a super challenging schedule. They have played the second easiest schedule in the SEC per Ken Pom. The only one who's played an easier schedule would be Auburn, according to Ken Pom. The Tigers got a big win against Mississippi State tonight without Chani Broom. We'll talk about that after. But yeah, the Rebels are now 13th in Ken Pom defense, number 1 in the SEC. And Jonathan, in the preseason, when we talked about Mississippi, we were a little bit concerned about what they were going to be defensively. They've put that to rest.
Yeah, I thought the 2-point defense with guys 6'9" center in the SEC could be a little concerning, but it's a 13th overall defense. They're defending the 3 very well, despite the fact that they're allowing a decent amount of threes per game. Could that come down a little bit? Sure. You're going to lose games at this conference. It's going to happen. But I want to get this out of the way because I said it earlier in the night when early in the Ole Miss Bama game. I don't know if people realize this, but as long as things don't fall apart for teams and Wade Taylor is back in an adequate amount of time, the SEC could have half of the protected seeds in the NCAA tournament, 8 of the top 16.
Yeah. One more thing about Mississippi. Jack mentioned how this is a switch everything team. You have to be a switch everything team with Malik Diaz as your center. You can't really play any other type of coverage. I don't think they have the bodies to try and blitz. I think that you have to switch everything to make this work, and they made it. They're making it work right now. It's really effective. I think Chris Beard. I mean, the guy. Oh my God, Arizona's up 44-19. But yeah, Mississippi's been really impressive. Egg Bowl basketball edition. Oh my God, I almost said Egg Bowl Bedlam. Shout out Ion College Basketball Podcast.
Give Mark Adams a lot of credit too. I mean, the fact they have him on that staff. I mean, he's helping run things too. I think that helps.
2 guys that I typically don't like to give a lot of credit to.
Right.
For a variety of reasons, but as basketball minds and nothing else, they have done a terrific job this season. Hardwood Egg Bowl on Saturday, Jonathan. Who wins in Starkville?
I feel like talking more about Mississippi. I get that the Hump's a tough place to go in and win, but Mississippi State does so much offensively through small guards, and if Mississippi State can't hunt those switches and Ole Miss can play defense like they did tonight, I think I give the edge to Ole Miss.
I'm going to go Mississippi State. It's going to be an angry basketball team after what happened tonight. 2 losses in a row. I just don't think Mississippi's good enough to straight up win 5 SEC games in a row this year. They're a good team. I think this league is going to have a way of balancing things out.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, thank you so much for joining us. Give me 1 second while I work on getting our 3rd guest. Jack, do you have anything else to add as Alabama will play Kentucky this weekend?
Yeah, first of all, I'm excited. I've never covered a game in Rupp Arena before, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And quick shout out to the game that in part delayed me from joining. How about those Missouri Tigers? 3-1 start to the SEC.
MIZ.
Big win over Florida. I mean, Dennis, after what he did last year, I'm impressed. This league is so stacked, and I was watching the end of that game, and just he's proving you can play literally everybody on your roster and still win games. So I respect it.
Yeah, I think Sam, our guy Matt Watkins, tweeted out tonight and said that there's a lot of reasons against how Dennis going this deep into his rotation, and tonight was one of the reasons for it.
First win for I think they have the first road win against a net top 5 team of anyone this season. So it's a nice thing to chuck on your resume.
Yeah.
If you're Mizzou.
All right. Jack, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys.
And shout out to Henry Sklar for the assist.
Yeah, great having Jack on. It was so funny seeing Grant pop up in the comments. Jack was obviously the beat writer for the team 2 years ago.
Sam, what's up, buddy?
We have Jaden Daly on the line. Jaden, the Garden tonight. What was the vibe in the greatest building on the planet as St. John's took down Georgetown?
Oh, it was an old school Big East battle, Sam. I think the 63-58 score gives that away, but also the resilient manner in which St. John's won this game was reminiscent of the blue collar team that this group has become. You're starting to see a group that, and for all the year 2 Rick Pitino's hype and statistics to back it up, you're seeing a group now that's finding ways to win in the middle of January, and you really can't put a price tag on that. I think what you saw from St. John's after going down 14 early in the second half was a resilient group that I think would not have been able to gut this out a year ago. R.J. Lewis had another big game. Kadari Richmond showed up at point guard with Davon Smith out. Aaron Scott was an X factor. When this team has 3 or 4 going at any given moment, it can win. And with Georgetown, Thomas Sorber and Drew Fielder got into foul trouble. Jaden Epps didn't play in the second half. And the adjustments that St. John's made on Micah Peavy with a crowd that willed this team on to victory. I don't want to say yet that this could be a special team, but you're starting to see all the signs of something's really powerful coming together.
Jaden, St. John's is not a team that's going to come out and hit you with an entourage of shots to come back and win a game like this. What did Pitino have to say, and what did you notice? It's kind of uncharacteristic, or I shouldn't say uncharacteristic, but definitely harder for a team as defensive-minded as St. John's to be able to come back in the second half when facing a deficit like this.
Well, they just came out, Jonathan, and they punched Georgetown in the mouth. I think the physicality was just ramped up, and Rick mentioned that and hinted at that in his post-game press conference, where the players are doing all the work, and you saw the adjustments that St. John's made on Peavy, on Malik Mack, where Curtis and Caleb Williams were the only ones providing sparks in the second half. Sorber was in foul trouble. Zubi Ejiofor got into foul trouble, but he went right at Sorber, took a charge that drew his 4th foul in about 8 or 9 minutes, if I remember correctly, to go in regulation. So Georgetown had to roll the dice. They were undermanned, shorthanded, and St. John's exploited them. The run to start the second half, I think, swung the momentum. Georgetown came back for a little bit, and then after that, when it was 50-all, it felt like Georgetown was out of gas, and that St. John's didn't necessarily speed it, the Hoyas up, but really pressured them enough to the point where they were running on empty with about 2 minutes left.
Georgetown has now let 2 games get away after leading by 14 on the road at the 2 top teams in the Big East. 3 losses in a row, but 3 losses where they fought, where they played hard to the 3 top teams in the Big East. Do you think Georgetown is the 4th best team in the Big East right now?
I don't know about that, and I think if you asked Ed Cooley, he would tell you Georgetown's the 11th best team in the Big East right now. He was pretty fired up tonight and said anyone who thinks this team is getting better, it's a bunch of BS because they've lost 3 in a row. They had the sluggish game against UConn last week and the Marquette game after that as well. But you look at the top, I think there's a clear top 3 now in no particular order of Marquette, UConn, and St. John's. But after that, it's really throw names and teams at a dartboard and see who hits the bullseye first. Creighton could still be that 4 or 5 caliber. Xavier, if it gets on a roll, can be as well. Villanova dropped a couple, so maybe their footing on that spot isn't as secure. And Georgetown is young. I don't know if they're, top half caliber right away. They still have a very hard second half to go. But between those four teams, I wouldn't even throw Providence in there. I think Providence is in the third tier of the league with Butler in the probably 8 and 9 categories. But I think Georgetown now is a cup below that.
If I had to put money on who finishes fourth in the Big East, I think I would choose Xavier.
That's a fair assessment.
With Fremantle back, that they got a big, gritty home win tonight, come from behind against a good Villanova team. Ryan Conwell played incredibly. He's really caught a groove because he's incredible. Back-to-back Ken Pom MVPs for him. But back to the St. John's kind of notes on this. 6-1. First time since 1998-99. That year, St. John's made the Elite Eight. This is a special season already for the Johnnies program. How have you seen this fan base rally around the team?
And that's something that Rick mentioned after the Villanova game, where the working class image and a group that has found ways to win and win for one another. New York, and you know this, Sam, growing up in the area, New York embraces a winner. When you have a fan base that clamors for a team that does it the right way and does it with old school values like this St. John's group is doing, it's a perfect match. And the rising tide lifts all boats. You look at the Knicks, who are forwardly placed in the NBA. The Rangers have fallen on harder times, but they've been one of the more successful teams in the regular season in the NHL over the last couple of years. The pro effect always trickles down to college more often than not, and it's just up to the college teams to maintain that. St. John's has done that. 15-3, 6-1 in the conference, as you said, the best start for the program in 26 years when they came within an eyelash of the Final Four against Ohio State. I don't want to speculate, but if all goes well, you're looking at a 25-win team.
And what makes this so impressive is the fact that they're not only is this a bad shooting team, like this is a team that is shooting 21% from three in conference play. 21%. They are attempting the fewest threes in the conference. And that's probably a good thing. And they're also not making a ton of 2-pointers, but they're not turning it over. They're getting offensive rebounds. Physically, this is the best team in the Big East. Defensively, this is the best team in the Big East. They have one of the best coaches in the history of the sport. Not the best coach in the Big East, but one of the best coaches in the Big East. And
yeah, I agree with
I think this is a team with, and you also got to remember, experienced guards, super experienced guards. Kadari Richmond has been around for a long time. Davon Smith didn't play tonight, but this is his 5th year as well. RJ Lewis, who has taken the next step. Simeon Wilcher, who didn't have a good game tonight, but came through, hit a big shot when they needed him to. Aaron Scott, who is tremendous on both ends of the floor. And then Zuby Ejiofor, who gives them so much toughness, so much grit, so much rebounding. I don't know if this is a team built to win a championship in March, but it's a team built to make noise in March. It's a team that is built for later in the season. With all this experience, with all this physicality, this is a unique team that will be extremely hard to prepare for on a one-day scout with how good Rick Pitino is. Jaden, do you agree?
I do. I don't think they're Sweet 16 good yet, but this St. John's team right now, if they're in an 8-9 game, they're going to put a scare into a 1 seed.
They're 15-3, Jaden.
Well, assuming that the maybe not the bottom falls out, but the floor for this team is an 8-9. If they get up to the 5 or the 6 line, they're going to put a scare in a 4 or a 3 in the second
Yeah,
round.
I just don't know how you went from this could be a 25 win team to if they're in an 8-9 game within like 2 words.
Well, their range could be 25 wins to an 8-9 seed.
Yeah,
but
I can agree with that. But I think this St. John's team should not only have a number next to their name, but that number should start with 1.
Okay, that's reasonable.
And
I think if I had an
I'm
AP
not
vote,
sure
it'd
the
probably
second,
be 21 or 22.
and I'm not sure the second number should be higher than 5. And that's kind of what I'm going to say there.
Okay.
I think this is a true, like, how much differently are we thinking of this team if Jeremy Roach doesn't make a 36-footer at 36-foot heave at the buzzer?
Or if the clock starts on time too.
Yeah.
This team has 3 losses by a combined 5 points.
5 points.
And they are, yes, the Providence win. They kind of got off there. But they've handled teams. They've handled teams.
I think at the same time.
I tweeted this tonight too. I said, if the Baylor game goes the other way, if the Georgia game goes the other way and the Creighton game goes the other way, you're looking at 17-1 because a Baylor win would mean they would have drawn Tennessee in the Baha Mar Hoops championship game. Don't think they beat Tennessee. I think that would have been a loss either way. So you're looking at 17-1 and probably a top 10 ranking, maybe a 6 or a 7 or somewhere in that area, and a chance to probably get into the top 5 this week in light of Alabama and Florida both being taken down tonight. You're looking at a single-digit team.
Seton Hall on the week. Oh, Jonathan, you wanted to go?
Yeah, no, I think what I was just gonna say is, we think based on watching St. John's and how they've performed against the Big East thus far, like I think it's fair to rank them as high as you want, Sam. But I also think that had they gotten one of those wins, like the Baylor game goes up the other way, the Creighton game goes the other way, even like the Georgia game was right there for the taking as well. One of those games goes the other way, and we're probably not talking like the 8-9 seed is more realistic because these games didn't go that way.
Jaden, one last thing for you. Why isn't this a bigger story in New York?
Probably because of how long it's been since this program has produced a team capable of doing what St. John's has done. It's far and away now the best start to a season since I've covered the program. It's looking like it's going to be the best finish to a season since the 2010-11 group that Steve Lavin took over and got to the tournament. And it had DJ Kennedy not tore his ACL in the Big East tournament against Syracuse, probably would have been a 4 or 5 seed and wouldn't have had the Gonzaga draw, which was a bad matchup from the get-go. That was a team that a lot of people had in the Sweet 16 in their brackets, with potentially Brigham Young and Jimmer in the second round had they gotten past Gonzaga. Like I said, I don't know if this group is Sweet 16 good, but they're definitely win a game in the tournament good. That hasn't happened in 25 years.
All right, Jonathan, anything else to add before we let Jaden go?
Yeah, no, I think on the whole tournament thing, you don't want to project stuff before you see a bracket, obviously. And Sam, I hate to say that as we get closer to, it's going to sound like a run repeat as we get closer to the tournament. But I think if you're St. John's, you have a coach as good as Rick Pitino. If whether they're projecting as a 6, 7, 8, as high as whatever they get up to,
As a 3 or
just
4.
not a coach I want to go up against on a one-day scout. And so we say St. John's is win a game in the tournament good. When you have a day to prepare for Rick Pitino and Rick Pitino has a day to prepare for you, more often than not, he's going to probably be more prepared than you are. And that's nothing against other coaches. He's just that good.
Oh no, that's another fair assessment. I'd agree with you on that.
All right, Jaden, thank you so much for joining us. You'll be at the Garden again. You'll be at the Rock on Saturday.
Depending on how everything goes earlier in the day and how fast it gets me to come back from Gamble, I could very well be at the Rock. I don't want to promise anything right now, but I'm aiming for the doubleheader.
That would be a fun one. Keep us posted. We'll see if we can get you on Saturday night.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Always a pleasure to be back on.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Quick whip around, Jonathan.
Yeah, let's do it.
Duke.
So I'm gonna give the I was working tonight. By the way, we have 300.
Keep this like less than 10 seconds. We
Real
don't need
quick before
we
I
don't
start
need
here.
we don't need to be any we don't need to talk about Duke for more than 10 seconds tonight.
We have 300. We have had 328 people tune in tonight. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in as college basketball begins to ramp up here in conference play. I'll give the 10-second scouting report on from Scott Litzkin on this game. 9-8, I guess, to start the game. Duke leads. Miami goes zone. Duke hits like 5 or 6 straight threes, and the game's over. From what he told me as when I talked to him in the car on the way back, it sounds like Miami just has a total effort problem.
Miami has a total everything problem. Let's be honest here. They are 4-13, 0-6. 0-6. 0-6.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 projected wins left in the season. One of them is Syracuse. Jonathan?
Should we save it? Let's do it. You know what? Let's do it. Sam, any thoughts on Syracuse? You were at the game tonight.
I have plenty, Jonathan. I have plenty.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
I've tried. I've looked for reasons.
Hold on. Give me 1 second.
What are you doing?
Give me 1 second.
Jonathan, what on earth are you doing?
Whoops.
You're getting a prop.
I needed to get a drink to sit back and enjoy this. Yeah, it's a Tuesday, so no alcohol, but had a couple Sprites in the fridge, and so
Jonathan,
I needed to just get a drink and sit back and enjoy this.
They won 2 ACC games in a row. I was really trying to be optimistic. I was looking for reasons to be optimistic about Syracuse. I don't have any. Like, legitimately. They're fine at certain things. JJ Starling, when he's on, is really good. But today, Louisville sent help. They kind of blitzed some ball screens. JJ Starling held the ball a little bit too long. He turned it over 6 times. He took 7 shots. He didn't score in the first half. Defensively, forget about it. Forget about it. Louisville at 12 threes. I think 7 or 8 of them were pretty wide open. Honestly, it might be more than that. On the glass, Louisville killed them. Turnover battle, Syracuse turned it over 14 times. Louisville turned it over 10 times. Yeah, I know Louisville's a good team. But, like, this is where you should be. Like, Syracuse is so far.
What is stopping Syracuse from being where Louisville is right now? Like we know the answer.
Everything is the answer. Like, nothing is good enough right now.
Louisville is down 2 guys that we expected to make a key impact for them this year. One of them will return, we think. One of them will not.
Wait, we think Which one?
Traore is coming back, right?
Traore is back.
He is back.
Traore played 13 minutes tonight, and he played really well.
Okay, so they have one guy that we expected to make a
Two,
big
Pryor and Corin.
Okay. Anyway, Louisville is not at full strength. They dropped their share of games once Pryor went out, and have since won. What is it? Six in a row now.
Six in a row since Kentucky.
3, 4. It's at 7 now.
No. Oh yeah, it is 7.
It's at 7. 4 of those are on the road. 2 of those are at home against North Carolina and Clemson.
Double digits.
Both are tournament caliber teams, or at least we think they'll be in the picture. And Syracuse has been dealing with injuries as well, but for 2 programs that they get the new coach in, there needs to be some sort of new life into the program, and they are just could not be further from opposite right now. One of these teams has a clear identity, despite the fact that they arguably have, a roster that is not as thought out and planned out as Syracuse, because Syracuse is in year 2 of a head coach and Louisville is in year 1. I think there are a lot of things to say.
You hit it. You hit it perfectly. Syracuse has zero identity as a team on a game-to-game basis.
Defensive rebounding cannot be your identity.
And let's be honest here, defensive rebounding is the bare minimum. And that was kind of what I think they were getting at with taking Lampkin. And all right, look, we've been terrible on the glass for too long. We switched out of zone this past year, and we still sucked on the glass. So, okay, give me a guy that can just flip the rebound battle in our favor. And fine, do that. That's the bare minimum, I think, of building a winning team. I think Syracuse, as a whole, just doesn't have an identity. They have a go-to guy. They have a go-to guy. But I was listening to Adrian Autry's press conference tonight. Plan B, after when Starling is struggling, is to get the ball inside. They didn't do a good job of that tonight. They did fine, but considering Starling took 7 shots, I mean, Jair Davis had a good first half. Eddie Lampkin scored 6 points in garbage time. The 2 combined for 21 points. And a lot of those were first 5 and last 5 of the game. I think having Donnie Freeman changes that for sure. And even on a day when Chris Bell hits his shots, I just don't know what to be optimistic about with Syracuse. Hey, Petar Mastorovich played 19 minutes tonight. Clap it up for a new career high in minutes.
You've been, I don't know if praising is the right word, but you've been giving him props, haven't you?
I mean, he plays hard. He has an identity.
Is it a fair assessment to say this looks like a team in their first year transitioning from zone to man? Despite the fact that it is obviously not.
I don't know if I would say that.
Okay.
But I see where you're going with that. They get blown by a ton.
Yeah, it's just the fundamentals are bad.
I also don't.
They're
I also
awful at forcing turnovers.
I also don't get what Autry is really getting at with starting Elijah Moore and playing him 6 minutes. This has happened twice now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he knows what the identity of this team is. And I think that's one of the problems right now. I don't think anybody in that building truly knows what this Syracuse team is or what this Syracuse team should be. I'm not even saying what the Syracuse program should be, what this specific team itself should be. Because I think everyone knows what the Syracuse program should be, and it's not what this team has been. I hope they figure it out. I don't see any reason why they would. I have racked my brain for everything, Jonathan. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to have faith right now. Like, there's no reason to have faith with a lot of these ACC teams, to be entirely fair. But
that doesn't excuse this,
it's
though. It just puts the league in a terrible spot.
Like, you're a Syracuse. You're not a blue blood, but you're in that next tier of college basketball programs after blue bloods in terms of, program history and stuff like that. But like, I'm gonna say it again, Sam. Like, Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White coming in does not excuse Autry keeping his job.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Oh, are we done here?
Do you have anything else to add?
I wanted to
Valley update.
Not tonight. Didn't get to see the games.
One thing I want to say. Boise State might be the angriest basketball team in the history of the sport.
Why do you say that?
After what happened, they led this game against Wyoming by 44. They won by 41.
I didn't see this. Oh,
they made 13 threes.
Two things from me. One
other thing. We might have to reinstitute the Oklahoma State boycott.
I'll give lots of time.
Yeah, I will too. It's just that I have no interest in watching this team right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but like I don't think that like we should go into his second year with the same expectation of like, like this team's going to be unwatchable. Like the whole boycott was the whole purpose of the boycott was we don't think that Mike Boynton should be the coach of this team.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Like, Steve Lutz absolutely deserves to be the coach of this team right now. Two and a half things from me. One, Arizona's rolling. Love to see it. Team has landed back on its feet. We said a couple weeks, probably a month ago at this point, that Arizona was going to be this like dangerous like 10 seed that like you don't want to see in your pod or your quad. Excuse me.
They could be a 5 seed. They could be a 4 seed.
Dude, they're tracking us like a 4 or 5 right now. And second of all, Baylor, I've said it the entire year, Baylor is completely fake. This team is not good. They fixed zero of their issues. I don't know why the roster that they brought in had people thinking that they did fix their issues. Regardless, this team's 20th in KenPom. If they were 20th in KenPom, that's just like right around where I thought they were going to be in the preseason. But they're getting pummeled right now at Arizona by 23. And there's not they'll make the tournament, but there's just not a lot of hope for me with that group right now. I think Scott Drew just needs to find a staff that equates the one he had in the past.
All right, one more thing.
Okay, I have one more thing as well. Do you want to go? Oh, yes, this is exactly what I was going for.
Pretend that's red and has the Arkansas logo, though.
So I haven't looked at bracketology a ton and really analyzed this. Do you know where? I'm asking you. I do not. You don't know where like Arkansas is relative to the NCAA tournament picture?
I can check the bracket matrix for you.
Okay, because I said a couple months ago that if Arkansas had lost to Miami in the SEC-ACC Challenge game, that we were going to stop talking about them. We can't stop talking about them because they're going to play against other really good teams that we want to talk about. But this team,
they were an 11 seed.
Dude, this
coming
team is a
into
disgrace. If
coming into January 10th.
dude, this team is a disgrace. I mean,
They have
John-
lost 2 games since then, including today to LSU. Yeah, it's probably a quad 1 game. They
John
now go to
Calipari-
Mizzou Arena.
See,
to face
I'd
Mizzou.
say that's a hangover game.
If they lose to Mizzou, it is a hangover game. It's a classic hangover game. Arkansas is the
I
more
just think
talented
that
team. They
with
should
after that win, it's going to be packed. It's really like students are going to be back on campus. It's going to be really hard not to get up for that game.
All right, Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Last thing I'll say on this before I take us home. John Calipari's rotation consists of 9 guys. Yeah, Jack's right. He's absolutely right. That guy's a warrior. Oh wait, I read that wrong. Jack, I disagree with you. I thought Jonas was excellent last year. I didn't think he was perfect by any means. I thought he was a little soft at times, but I think he's a really good center. And that actually kind of leads into my point. John Calipari's rotation consists of 9 guys, 4 freshmen, 4 transfers, 1 returner, and Trayvon Brazil. Throw out the 4 freshmen because this is their first year of playing college basketball. There are 5 guys in this rotation that played college basketball this last year. Not a single one of them has gotten better. And more than half of them have gotten worse.
Take us home.
That's a really hard thing to do. If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to see Jacob Polachek's dog, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about Caleb Grill and the latest happenings with him, the latest happenings, very good tonight, you came to the right place.
We actually talked about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill
This is season 5, episode 51 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight, and we'll see you next time.